Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, a warm welcome to the Tourism Students Festival 2020, organized by New Tourism Foundation, the first ever initiative at the national level to focus on education sector on tourism, bringing students in academia into an interface with the industry and the government, with a view to prepare for the challenges for the new normal. And on behalf of New Tourism Foundation, I extend a warm welcome to all our eminent panel members of this session. So ladies and gentlemen, the topic for this session is tourism entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the engine that drives any successful industry or economy in the rapidly evolving hospitality, tourism and leisure sector worldwide. This is particularly true. Tourism industry plays an important role in business development, hospitality, and leisure industries, in the first place based on entrepreneurship. And to begin the proceedings of this session, I have the proud privilege of introducing our eminent panelists. We have with us today on the panel Captain Suresh Sharma, who is founder, India's first overland truck for nomadic overlanding holidays, caravans, photographer, chef, nature conservation from Chandigarh. He's pioneer of caravan tourism industry in India, 20 years and 1,67,000 kilometers of caravanning. Designed and introduced new concept of mobile glamping in the tourism industry globally, and designed a new breed of recreational vehicle, hybrid of caravan and overland truck to deliver the best possible hospitality under the most hygienic camping conditions for outdoor experiential holidays unmatched as now. On the panel, we have Dr. Nimit Chaudhary, who is professor at Jamia Millia Islamia. And our eminent panelist, Ms. Loveleen Arun, has had diversified experience in the hotel and travel industry. She started her career with the Taj Group of Hotels, which was followed by 3 years tenure at the Imperial in New Delhi. And finally, she moved to Bangalore with Cox and Kings, where she was area manager for South India. She co-founded Panache in 2001. She has diligently reinvented herself over the years to remain relevant in the very fast-changing travel industry. Her strong points are immensely intimate and first-hand destination knowledge and long-term bonds and relationships with industry colleagues around the world. She travels frequently and keeps herself up to date with the latest trends in the global luxury travel industry by attending the major cutting-edge events. Recognized by several global networks like TravelerMate, she is one of the premier luxury travel advisors in India today. And on the panel, we have our distinguished panelist, Ms. Vinita Rashankar, who is a health and wellness expert, a writer, a speaker, a spiritual counselor, and tourism PR specialist. She is the founder and managing director of Amara Vedic Wellness Griham, a Dusseldorf-based company founded with the intention to bring the hidden aspects of Vedic knowledge to the common man, thereby promoting total wellness encompassing the body, mind, and spirit. Ms. Vinita has been featured in various Indian and international publications such as Femina, Outlook, Asia Spa, Finance, and Vogue. She is currently working with a major TV channel to provide health and wellness content while continuing to follow her career path in tourism PR. And on the panel, we have with us Mr. Himmat Anand, who launched the Tree of Life Resorts and Hotels in the year 2010, which today operate in 8 locations and 3 more are scheduled for 2020. He recently also launched a dog story, which provides amazing gateways for those traveling with their pets or those who are pet lovers. Our eminent panelist, Ms. Neha Arora, is the founder of Planet Abled, which provides accessible travel solutions for people with disabilities. Ms. Neha worked with companies like HCL, Nokia, and Adobe before taking the plunge to start Planet. Ms. Zelam Chobal is named after the Divine River. And in her 10-year stay in US, she started her own travel company, A to Z Tours and Travel, and ran it successfully till she came back to India for good. She returned to India in 2000 and settled in Pune to consolidate and develop Kesari's presence in the Pune region. It's to her credit that within a span of few years, she made Pune the second largest market for Kesari, then developed the office in Kolhapur. She has successfully developed Kesar Mais, a division of Kesari Tours for corporate travel for large groups, and also recently launched Destination Wedding for another division of Kesari Tours Private Limited. She had served as chairperson of Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture for 4 years, TIE Charter members and chair for Women Initiative. And our distinguished moderator for this session is Ms. Shobha Mohan, who is the founder partner of Rare India, a company that has been promoting conservation and community-based tourism with sustainability as a keystone value for tourism and hospitality. She sits on board associations like RTSOI, TTC, IAHRC, etc., and promotes the idea that sustainable travel is future ready and luxury has to be redefined around the parameters that believe in protection and preservation of the planet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I hand over to our distinguished moderator to carry forward the proceedings of the session. Over to you, ma'am.
So welcome, young ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the new Tourism Foundation. The idea of this, of course, is to create value, create knowledge, and create information for all of you. Today in the panel, that is to talk about entrepreneurship in tourism, opportunities and entrepreneurship in tourism, we have with us I don't like to say stalwarts, but I can tell you, put together, we have over 250 years of collective experience, some as young as Planetable from Neha. So without wasting any more time, we'll go ahead because we have a lot to talk. And I just discovered, much to my joy, that we can actually talk forever, all of us. And that's one thing tourism has taught us, that we can really talk. Yeah, so we'll go randomly. Anybody wants to go first? Go on. Anybody wants to talk about their company first? Yeah, go ahead, Jailam. Over to you.
Good afternoon, friends. I'm Mrs. Jailam Chaubal. I'm director of Kesari Tours Private Limited, one of the oldest player in tourism industry. But we call ourselves young brand. Kesari is founded by my father, Mr. Kesari Patil. That's how we got its name. Today, Kesari is one of the most trusted brand in Indian tourism industry. We are into group tours, individual tours, then corporate tours, and pioneer for women-only tours, honeymoon tours. So these are kind of, that's how the brand is elevated. And Kesari is, name Kesari is with any travel service, anything related to travel, and we are there for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to Loveleen. You would like to go next?
Hi. So I am from Panache World. We are based in Bangalore. Panache World has, I can't even define it as one single thing that we do, because we've reinvented ourselves quite often. What started as a company to provide customized luxury tours for Indians has now turned into something totally different. The one thing that I can say about a travel company, a generic travel company in India, is that the Indian traveler is a wonderful, wonderful person to be serving, because they will continuously surprise you with what they demand out of you. We are lucky that with Panache World, we've always been very flexible. We've always been very open with new ideas, and therefore we have been able to adapt very, very quickly to the changing trends of the Indian traveler. Where we think, just as a company like K-Street Tours and a company like Panache World can coexist in the same space with an immense respect for each other, and that is because of the variation that we have in the Indian traveler. So there's a lot for everybody to do in this space and in the entrepreneurship field within the travel industry.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Himmat, over to you.
So good afternoon. I operate a small hotel brand called the Tree of Life Resorts. We started 10 years back. I spent my lifetime in inbound tourism, and it was in 2010 that we started the first Tree of Life resort in Jaipur. There were a few non-negotiables when we started. One, we understood at that time that space and privacy will be the luxuries of the future. And I think it's mapping out that way for us as we go along. The second non-negotiable was that we will always be outside city centers. So all the 8 properties we have today, in whichever location we are between 10, 12, 15 kilometers away from the city center. So we provide a lot of space, we provide a lot of in-house activities and stuff, and we are only 20, 25 minutes to the city for those people who want to get there. And the third was about size, that we will always remain small. And when I say small, I mean in the number of keys. So the smallest property we have today in Binsar is 11 keys. The largest property we have in Banaras is 18 keys. And about 20 to 22 keys is our Lakshman Rekha. We won't go more than that. So it's been an interesting journey thus far. We've sort of also moved into related activities. We've launched another brand some time back, about 8 months back, called Intimate Moments. Intimate Moments sells small celebrations in our properties because all our properties get houseful at 20, 30, 35 people at the outside. So they are ideal locations for people to take the whole property for an anniversary, a wedding, a small wedding, a birthday celebration, etc., etc. I started a dog story about 6 months back, and the dog story came out of my travel with my pet Jugnu. He's a Labrador, and we go on our holidays once a year. And whenever I'd want to book a hotel for Jugnu and me, it would say pets not allowed. So I said, well, I'm going to turn this on its head, and I will start a brand where you can only stay if you're traveling with your pet. So that's how a dog story came into being. We have one in Jaipur right now. We opened Mussoorie Foothills day before yesterday. The third one will open in Corbett Country next month. And I plan to take another 3, 4 more dog stories, but they're small, 2, 3 rooms, that's it. And very, very cozy, lots of open spaces. And the last brand we sort of created for ourselves is a brand called Ojas. Ojas was to be about small group travel, experiential travel, 8, 10 people, but again centered around Tree of Life properties. So go 3 nights, stay in one place, explore everything else around it. It's on the back burner for now, the situation being what it is. So we'll get Ojas back on track by summers next year. So yeah, that's a small story about the Tree of Life.
Fantastic. Thank you, Himmat.
Thank you.
Neha, you want to go next?
So hi everyone, my name is Neha and I represent Planet Able, which provides accessible and inclusive travel solutions for people of all disabilities, giving them the freedom to travel just like anyone else would. So you could be a wheelchair user or have any other reduced mobility, you could be blind, deaf, autistic, or have any other intellectual or cognitive disability. You can travel. You can travel solo, go on a romantic getaway, go travel with your family, friends, or go for adventure trips like rafting or skiing or hiking and things like that. And the group trips that we do are always inclusive in a way that in one group you'll have people with various disabilities and the non-disabled traveling together. That makes us the only company in the world to do that. And that is what the whole idea of Planet Able is, to make travel inclusive, breaking the barrier that disability often creates when it comes to travel, because we have multi-generational families, we have families with disabled members, and of course, people want to intermingle and meet new people irrespective of whether they have a disability or not. So
Absolutely.
that is a bit about us. And I started this. I come from a totally non-tourism background.
Yes. Yeah.
Perhaps when I started, I was the least travel company owner. I came from the inspiration because both my parents are persons with disabilities. My dad is blind and mother is a wheelchair user, and we could never travel as kids. And when we grew up and started traveling, it was never a very good experience. It was always like you travel 2,000 miles only to realize that the place is not accessible or doesn't give you the kind of experience that you would look forward to, or people would pass comments that if you face so much trouble, why do you even come? So that was the process that led to the series of these bad experiences, led me to leave the corporate career and start Planet Able.
Fantastic. That's really brilliant. In fact, among all of us here, yours is a gap. I mean, your enterprise actually fills in a gap in the travel business, and I don't think you have any competition yet. So, in fact, you will have to charter your own course, and we'll come to that in a minute. Vinita, over to you.
Namaste. I'm the founding director of a company called Blue Brick PR. I wear a couple of hats, but I'm here in the capacity of Blue Brick. The thing is, why I mention this is it was a failure which actually got me to launch Blue Brick. I used to do a lot of work with spirituality, Ayurveda, and yoga. So I had set up a wellness center in Germany, which for a variety of reasons which were beyond my control, it failed. And I was compelled to come back, and I was looking at what else I could do, having understood the market a little bit. And that's when I saw that there was a little bit of a lacuna, a vacuum in for states to market themselves overseas. So that's when we started Blue Brick. It's been about 4 years, and we mainly deal with state tourism boards. At the moment, I'm handling Madhya Pradesh and a couple of other southern states as well. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Fantastic.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much, Vinita. Captain Ajay Sharma, before you came in, we had already spoken, so we haven't had the opportunity to meet you, but you head Green Dot, which is a travel company, right?
Oh, I'm Captain Suresh Sharma.
I'm sorry. My bad. My apologies. Yeah, Captain Suresh
It's
Sharma.
fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Jai Hind to everybody. I'm sorry for being late because I was not well today and I really struggled hard. I mean, I even forgot that I am going to be here today, but thanks to the call Tushar had given me, I had to get ready within 5 minutes. Thanks to my son who is used to Zoom classes and he did it. Anyway, after having served for 6 years in the Indian Army and having done 18 months of fierce action in Sri Lanka, I thought, okay, I have done my bit for the country, now let me live my own life. So as a soldier, once I have done my bit, so I wanted to live a free life. I started tourism. I wanted somebody to pay for my travels, basically. It's not that I was chasing a dream to grow rich in business. I've never been a business-minded guy. My family doesn't have background of a business. So I started tourism, and I was basically connected with the Western market because I worked on wildlife films with the National Geographic. And from there, I had connections to those wanted to travel in India. And most of the times when I used to send them, they used to come back complaining food was not good, or the transport was not good, or the driver was playing tricks with them. So I thought, why not create a self-contained mobile camping unit where transport, food, stay, everything is under my control. So I came up with this idea in Chennai, that time Madras, to start a mobile camping unit. But for some reason, I could not start because the chassis, the kind of vehicle I wanted, it was not available. And I had to import it. It was becoming very expensive. I couldn't afford it. So anyway, the time passed. I got into tourism, and my basically getting into tourism is, of course, somebody else is paying for my travels. And I wanted to do my fundraising. My mission is nature conservation through tourism and photography. So I have given up all my chase for any kind of name, fame, and money. And I started living very, very simple life. And in 2000, when I got married, I was already under the process of making a caravan for myself. And this caravan was made basically to educate people in the cities, villages about snakes and snake bite and how to do first aid and all those kind of things. And the caravan's name is King Cobra in praise of snakes.
Yes.
And then about say 2010, I came up with this idea to make it bigger because more people wanted to travel in a caravan. Though in India, we don't have culture of caravan traveling. Unfortunately, we don't have culture of outdoor life. And most people are confused. They want luxury of a hotel and a caravan, which is not possible. They have to realize, what does a caravan give you? Caravan gives you an access to a remote area, to a beautiful location where you have no one to look at you, no one to disturb you, and nature at its best to experience firsthand. So I have made a overland truck, which is designed by me and my wife, and we were involved in the fabrication with our own hands for 1.5 years. And this is one of its own kind overland truck, because overland truck is supposed to be having very basics. But
We can't hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I'm sorry, there was a call. Sorry for that. So we designed an overland truck which will suit the Indian market, because in India, people don't want to pitch up their own tent. People want somebody else to do everything. Abroad, in Africa and in New Zealand and Australia, on an overland truck, when you go, you are about 20 people and you cook in rotation as a team. Every day there'll be a roster, there'll be 4 people, you pull out your stoves, you cook a basic meal. Because we in India, we live to eat. Whether we are late on a trip or not, but our food should be good and we cannot miss a meal. Whereas in those countries, they have priority to their trip. They can eat boiled food or anything. So we had to make a very elaborate kitchen. And we designed in such a way that we give them comfortable with mattress tents on board. So this is a very unique design in a way. Is an amalgamation of that overland truck and a caravan. So we call it a self-contained mobile camping unit. And we take people out on locations where they experience nature firsthand. And also we believe in leading people by example. We have removed all plastic items. We don't use disposable material on board. Our napkins are also cotton napkins. For 8 people, we carry about 370 napkins, though we have some calculations on that. And we do not use bonfire. We are really sort of against bonfire. But at the same time, we do not deny pleasant holiday to our guests. We deny them one thing, we give them 2 things back. So we make sure people enjoy it. So we use local materials for bonfire and we burn them in our Weber barbecue, which we carry with us. So we don't burn fire or even barbecue. I mean, there's charcoal briquettes and cow dung cakes on ground, because we don't want to burn those. We don't want to kill insects. Those are, let's say, about 2 inches below the ground. So this is a venture basically to support nature conservation through tourism and photography. And I go with the truck all the time and I make sure my guests are really looked after very well. And it's not me. After 5-6 years of operations, it's the guests those have said it's a 7-star for outdoor life.
Fantastic.
Imagine you are at a secluded beach in Kutch and it's moonlit night. There is no one around you. You can take a 5-kilometer long walk, not even one person to look at you. And you have, say, barbecue laid out. You can go for a walk. You have an elaborate kitchen. We've got 3 high pressure burners. We really make sure that people enjoy their meal sitting on the rooftop. And imagine you are enjoying your morning sunrise and the sunset in the evening.
Great. That sounds really wonderful, Captain Sharma. That's really fantastic. So what we've actually done is we've spoken about the company. Also, some of the brand stories have come out. I wanted it to be a separate question. However, sir, I wanted to have Professor Nimit Chaudhary talk. I mean, you heard various aspects of tourism being discussed here. I mean, in fact, we have a camping, somebody who's interested, who does nature conservation through outdoor camping. We have tour operators, we have group operators, we have a hospitality specialist, and we have somebody who's ventured into tourism marketing. So how do you see, I mean, Professor Chaudhary, how do you see this this variety that you see here? And are some of these even taken up as subjects in the courses that you are that is taught in Jamia Millia for tourism?
Thank you, Shobha. Allow me 2 minutes before I answer your question, and kind of introduce myself.
Yes, absolutely. First, of course, you'll introduce yourself.
As you mentioned, I work for Jamia Millia Islamia. I'm a professor with the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management. But again, I don't have an academic background in tourism. I've been into tourism for the last 13, 14 years. But what is interesting is that many professors and teachers are supposed to be teaching in one university or 1 or 2 changes during their lifetime. But I have had the opportunity of teaching in almost all the regions of India. So West, Rajasthan, Mizoram, then spent quite some time with Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management at Gwalior, then heading the Noida campus, heading the Nellore campus before I ended up before I'm at Jamia Millia.
Jamia, yes, yeah.
I teach, or my teaching interest or some research interests are in tourism entrepreneurship and marketing. And since COVID has restricted us, so while we're all working from home for most of the time, I decided to do a book on marketing. And the interesting thing is that I made a reference to Planet Abled and Neha, that book. And I'm so happy to see her here on the panel. But what is, I'm trying to connect with this discussion.
Yeah.
When I was working at MDS University, which is Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati University in Ajmer, I worked there for a long time, around 15 odd years. We had an opportunity to create, a center for entrepreneurship, which is now called Center for Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management at MDS University Ajmer. And it is, even to this date, the only university-based entrepreneurship development institute in the country, right? Entrepreneurship development institutes are created under a scheme of ministry, under a scheme of then Ministry of Small Enterprises, micro, small and medium enterprises, and the state governments. So there are around 20 EDIs in the country, including the very famous one at Ahmedabad. But the only university to house is MDS University Ajmer. So obviously there was some political backing, and the then Chief Minister of Rajasthan wanted us to have that center. So kind of central government very unwillingly, allowed us that center. And when we went there to take the seed money from the government of India, the gentleman there, he said, okay, we are giving you this money. And we said, like, also advise us what should we be doing with the center. He said, no, 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 because there was a political intervention, we somehow manipulated the scheme and allowed you, and we don't expect much from you. Every year complete a PhD or so, or something, and send a report that's good enough for us. I said, still, if we want to do something, what should we be doing? He said, hey, don't worry, bankers and people would come rushing in. If there's a priority sector spending, and there are schemes which these banks must comply with and the district administration must comply with. So you just sit and wait. There will be a lot of people who will come approach you for these entrepreneurship development trainings. So roll out those trainings. So we started that center in 2003 in the university and sat for almost 3 months, and nobody approached us. Nobody came to us. We said, look, we have been told by Government of India. They said, okay, good, we'll see you. We wrote a few letters, but nobody came us. So we started a small, kind of a diploma program. And the fees for that program was 10,000 rupees. So we wanted students to take a degree. So one of the students, and that is really interesting, and I keep sharing this many times. One student, and it was good luck for me that this young boy walked into the center. I was sitting there to counsel these students, and I explained him about this diploma program. So he said, sir, all is fine, but why are you, 2003. So he says, but why are you charging this 10,000 rupees as a fees? So we said, look, we also need to meet our costs and other things. So we also need this money. So very casually, and no offense, he didn't mean any offense. He said in Hindi, he said, "Kya hai sir, आप तो खुद ही अपने पैरों पे नहीं खड़े हुए हैं, आप हमको क्या हमारे पैरों पे खड़ा करेंगे?" And it hurt us, दिल में बहुत दूर तक चुभा वो बात उसका. I said, yes, we are sitting here waiting for agencies to come and help us with this. Or we're trying to teach them, Atmanirbhar, as we call it today, to be Atmanirbhar. So how do we do this, and how do we set an example? And that single thing, that struck us, and we started designing programs, and we started looking at models and other things. I'm so happy to say that this is a hugely successful center at MDS University Ajmer even today. I left the center long back, but they're still there, they exist, and they have a, assets of more than 12 crore, which is huge in a state university setup, with almost 10 crores in surplus. So that is how, and once we got into that, that entrepreneurial mode, this center was more justified for us. For me, I learned that lesson, and during my life, I've got this opportunity. So I'm not an entrepreneur in the sense that most of you are. But I've always been given these kind of challenges to, go and turn around a institution or a program which is not self-sustaining, and I strongly believe in it, that until unless you do which is worthwhile, which is valued by the consumer, which is valued by the society, you don't get paid for it. So that is one thing that drives me, and that is one thing that I normally talk about when I start teaching my sessions on entrepreneurship. And one more thing, 8th five-year plan, for the first time they introduced a concept of small business and self-employment in India. And one of the things which most of us in academics get wrong, and which still needs to be corrected, is that we perhaps somehow tend to communicate to youngsters, young boys and girls, that, okay, look, here in the university, we have a placement cell. So we are all working for your placements. Good if you get placements. If you don't get placements, then 8th five-year plan said, that sentence that they used was, self-employment has to be an alternative employment strategy in the country. which was a blunder.
Blunder, absolutely.
Please.
Yes.
And I often say, and I remind my friends in government that this is what you said, what it actually needs to be, that self-employment has to be a preferred employment strategy for the country, for the society. Until and unless we have a culture where the best of the young people and the talented people come up and take up the responsibility for the scarce resources that any community, any country has, this is going to be a problem. You cannot, as a society, trust your resources with someone who is who is making a half-hearted attempt, or who is not really the best to take care of them. So that is my take on entrepreneurship, that the best in a society, the best minds in a society must be motivated to take up self-employment, and we, as other members of the society, need to create a corroborating ecosystem for this. Many countries have done it. Unfortunately, we have not been very successful with this. So that's my opening.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. That was a good insight into academia and how they view, how the government views entrepreneurship. I'd imagine that in a country where jobs are, we still have a lot of youth without jobs, they would really encourage and support self-employment. Obviously we are wrong there. So coming back to all our hands on the deck and feet on the ground where our businesses are concerned, let's talk about challenges. Generally challenges, as especially if you are in a uncharted territory, just like Neha is. This is one area where there's not been anybody, and nobody's even thought about this before. In fact, I remember going for a conference where they came up with, about 6 or 7 years ago, there was a conference where they were talking to us about how each and every hotel should have one particular room that is, that is friendly for differently abled. And they kind of also put into perspective, those little words of empathy instead of using the terminology, how to get the terminology right. So Neha, how were the initial days like? When you started putting the company together, how were the initial days?
Oh, well, because to start with, it started 2.5 years before even the company was launched. Because I had bills to pay and a very good job to, fall back upon, and addicted to a good salary at the end of the month. So I was to convince myself whether this is even a business model, or whether it would be a sustainable financial model if I launch it as a service. Because there was no service around. There might be a reason why companies were not doing it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was looking into that, and I had to convince myself first that this would work. So that took me like sitting at airports overnight, counting the number of people who are coming out, talking to concierge, like how many people are traveling, because there was no data. I had to create that data for myself. And of course, in terms of starting, the challenge was convincing even the traveler that you can travel.
Yes.
So for your first day trip, talking to parents of 40-year-olds that you can travel, and allow them to travel, even if they are earning their own livelihood, the parents are still not allowing them to go and have fun to the monument in the neighborhood, right? And then talking to the hotel owners or any of the service providers, they were like, they don't come, then why we should bother? But they don't understand it's a catch-22. They don't come because you are not accessible or you are not welcoming enough. So disability is always linked to charity, like I still get asked who pays for them. But the point is, it's a huge market which is untapped and no one is looking into that. So the challenge started from there. Then India as a country is not accessible in terms of infrastructure, like technology.
Monuments, monuments, for instance,
anywhere, like monuments, of course, then you have these boat rides, or any tour in restaurants, or anywhere, the hotels, you cannot go inside, right? Even if they have a disabled friendly room, it's merely tokenism, because for star rating they need that one room. Right? In budget category, there are no rooms because it is not a compliance. And often it's made as a hospital bed kind of a room also. It's not a holiday experience also. So, working on that, making things accessible temporarily, so that at least people are seen out in the open, because until and unless you're seen out, no one would know that you exist. No one would know that you are a paying customer, and no one would bother to even create or focus on services and products for you.
For you. Yeah, I know. I mean, sounds like a very, very uphill task. I mean, imagine creating your own market, informing the market that, there is tourism waiting for you. Absolutely. Brilliant work, Neha. Brilliant work there. Loveleen, I know you've been in the industry for a very long time. But in this industry, most people, I mean, I personally, this was not what I ventured out to do initially, right? I became an entrepreneur, by chance. I mean, it wasn't something tourism was not something I set out to do, right? And I find the story quite repeated around the board. I mean, a lot of people are like that. So in this industry, in the travel business, obviously there are so many players. If you talk about the luxury arena, you talk about curated. Today, those words, I mean, they're slowly meaning nothing, actually. I mean, everybody is a luxury person. Everybody is bespoke. There's absolutely, you don't even know if you're looking at quality when people. So in that kind of scenario, how do you make your presence, and how do you make your offerings and your company different and heard in all that din?
So Shobha, I always sort of choose to look at the positives, and I always choose to look at the opportunities around. And for anybody in India, I mean, how lucky are we that we have the second largest population in the world as our clients, first of all. So we may be small, we may be less heard, we may have a lot of duplication of what we are doing, we may have a lot of people claiming to do the same thing as we do. But imagine, even if you reach out to 1% of the people or the population, you still have a huge number to serve.
Yes.
So I always tend to sort of focus that I will always have enough, and I don't want to. So you also have to be practical in your ambition. As long as you're practical, that I'm not a funded company, nobody's paying for a huge amount of marketing. So I have to market, I have to talk, or my clients have to talk, or my customers have to talk. And I feel the word of mouth does take you. If you are never planning to ramp it up to 100 employees, then what your clients bring you, you are good to serve, because they bring you the like-minded clients again. So I feel, one, of course, you have to get smarter with the messaging that you put out. If there are 10 companies that claim to be doing what you are doing, you have to live with that fact that people are going to copy your model. The people are going to even perhaps start talking the same things that
Absolutely.
you do.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of just be ahead of the game, keep the trust of your clients, keep the positivity going with your clients to say, yes, we trust them. They've been leading us with their thought. How do you keep abreast with what's happening in the world? Even if you have a 3-month lead time on your thought process and the messaging that you send out to your clients, you're still home.
Yeah.
Because I find that something that somebody would do and other people would copy, there used to be a time lag of at least 1 or 2 years. By the time they got their game together, you could lead. But here, you put out one little social media post, and then the next day you see 5 other people are just like, doing the same thing.
We also do.
I know. You yourself are a victim of a lot of
No, not that. I'm just saying people just will say, we also do that,
Yeah, we also do that.
Exactly.
That's
so,
what, yeah. So I think if you stay true to what your messaging is, if you actually get your hands dirty and get deeper into that thought and your delivery, I think you are still going to make a positive out of that. Having said that, challenges will remain. It's not just with our industry, it's with every possible industry. There's nothing to stop people copying your idea, but put your head down, do good work, and nobody can take it away from you, I think.
That I completely agree. And the lead time that you have, and creativity is a big thing. As an entrepreneur, I think you are one of the most creative people on earth. You have to be creative on all accounts, whether you're finding businesses or you're trying to bat against your competition. I think all the time it's creativity at work. Zelam, coming to you now, you actually took forward, I mean, you have taken forward an already existing company. Now that is, in my opinion, and it could be different where Kesari Tours is concerned. So obviously they must have set a certain pattern, and there must have been like a set market and a set delivery that they must have been known for a long time, right? Then the younger generation, the next generation comes in. That transition, in my opinion, makes it challenging, or did you find it easy? You just found it easy to carry forward the legacy that Mr. Patil had created? You're muted. You're on mute.
See, when you are an entrepreneur, nothing is easy, first of all. We had definitely reputation, very inspiring story of my father. My father started this company when he was 50 years old, 35 years ago. So almost retiring age. And if you go back right now, there are second startup and third startup, people do that. But 35 years ago, that was not the practice in India, or, at least. So that is a big inspiration for us. All the trick of trades we learned from him. I mean, I was in college and I was going on tour with him. So he was institute for us. He was very innovative. Lot of things we started as, first time, how you enter and what time, if the time is right, that is also very important. So it is, and when you enter in an industry where there is certain reputation is already set, certain expectation is already set. So you have responsibility to carry forward that reputation, plus you have to bring in innovation of your own, and you have to prove. So there is lot of responsibility on your shoulder, that your father's name is there and he has created this beautiful organization. You have to live up to that, and plus you have to take it ahead. So it's a responsibility. When it comes to challenge, but at the same time, when I said that, it is much easier than any startup. That is also there. But challenges, I would say the challenges are different. Any startup goes through challenges of from where to get clientele, this, that, everything he has to think about, which here for us, it was set. But there is different challenge that cope up with this repute and take it ahead. So that was our challenge. And as a business overall, when you are entrepreneur, you think of it that you are married to challenges, because every time you overcome that challenge, you are a better person. You are better to take more challenges. And when you deal with volume, especially, I will tell you just to, example, you think of anything happening in world, our group was there, whether it is 9/11, whether it is tsunami, whether it is cloudburst, Chardham. Every time we are there, our group is stuck everywhere. So when you are in travel industry, you don't own anything. So your challenges are there, but there is beautiful support system as well, which helps you. And I think then you are ready to take any kind of challenge,
Absolutely.
We are in the business for 35 years. So
Yeah, you're already programmed for crisis management. I can see
absolutely.
that, right?
Yes.
That's a wonderful insight. From DMC, from heading one of India's largest DMC to turning a hotelier, a first-time hotelier, that was quite a move. And we collaborated briefly at that point in time. And for me, it was an inspiration to be when I used to go sales calling with you. One of the things I always tell people, and I also tell is your absolute openness to learning. Right? I mean, you were just absolutely open and ready for anything. And there were a lot of things that, that used to happen when we used to go for sales, because you were from the industry and you were going to the very same people, right? So how were the first few years when, first 2 years, I think they were the very tough ones.
So yeah, Shiva, whenever I look back in life in the last years, there are on 2 occasions that I kick myself badly. One occasion is when I came back from Europe. I lived there from 85 to 95. I worked overseas, and I came back to India in 95. Total Deshbhakt, must go back to India, serve the country, all that nonsense. Today I kick myself. I don't think I should have come back. So that's one instance when I kick myself. The other instance I kick myself, and I must admit that I think entrepreneurship is unnecessarily romanticized. It's made into one huge glorification. Each of us have our own reasons for becoming entrepreneurs at whatever given time we want to be. I had done my bit in that position of COO, and I've always believed in life that you must jump when you're on the top, because your downfall has to happen. Unless you're a Tata or an Ambani, downfall will happen. Lesson life has taught me is leave when you're on top and start from zero again. And I've done that ever so often in 35 years of working. So when I started Tree of Life, I was at the peak of my corporate career. And yes, like you said, I jumped in, not with eyes closed. It was a dream I had that I wanted to create one small little property for myself and run it myself. Harrowing days, I must admit, those 2 years were harrowing days. They say grown-ups don't cry or shouldn't cry. I used to cry. I was 47 and I used to cry at night. कि मैंने कर क्या दिया, ये अच्छी वाली नौकरी थी मेरी, वो छोड़ छाड़ के this nonsensical passion I had to do this, to do that, 7 acres of land, only 14 villas, 15 kilometers outside of Jaipur. Anybody I speak to says this is going to fail, boss, you're going to get back to your job very soon. This is not going to succeed. Dad, a retired Fauji officer, so there was no money, no backing behind me. And yeah, I was scared like hell in the initial years, I must admit. But I think what just got me on was I had decided for myself, it is this or nothing. Either I succeed or I die. I didn't give myself a third option. So my options were only one, that what I'm doing in any which way has to succeed. When I look back, and for the youngsters who are going to come and want to become entrepreneurs, please don't do that. I think that is a very risky thing to do in life. When I look back, would I do the same thing again? No. I think I'll play my cards more calculated. I would take more sort of security measures before I do a thing like that. So yeah, like I said, each one of us has our own push, has his or her own calling, and we do it for strange reasons. But I'm glad I did it. And having done it now for 12 years, the itch is again now to move on from here. The Tree of Life can't be my story forever. It shouldn't be. So there is now the urge for something else, which is now brewing, and I will see when is the time to do that. So yes, I guess life must carry on, one to the other to the third.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, if it's another journey into a new field, that's a serial entrepreneur and something brewing all the time. So I think that is very romantic.
No, serial entrepreneur makes it sound too snazzy now. I wouldn't risk that. That's a very snazzy statement. That's like for the Swiggies and those sort of guys to talk about, to talk this language. I have just small little aspirations I want to fulfill in life and keep ticking the box as you go along. And that's it, yeah. And have fun doing it. Really
great. I hope you were not crying at night because I used to make you climb stairs. And
no, this was when I was building. When I left my job and I was building Jaipur, I used to get up at 2 in the morning and start crying. Man, what have I done to my life? Yeah. It happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, but you've done very well. You are an inspiration,
thank you.
Himmat, and you've
Thank
done
you.
really, really well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, I really think entrepreneurship is very creative. It is for very creative minds. It is also for people who can take those risks and challenges, right? And I really think you've done really well, Himmat. So, I mean, a lot of people look forward, I mean, look at you for inspiration and to take a little note from your pages to see how they can enter into the world of being an entrepreneur. So that always happens. So
But one thing,
please don't dissuade anyone.
No, one thing if I may add, when you say a lot of people look up to me, one thing which entrepreneurs should never ever expect, and I learned the lesson a very hard way, is depend on your friends for business. I mean, I spent 25 years in the industry with friends and I hold no grudge against them. I had huge promises of support. Nothing happened. Nothing means nothing. So I think as entrepreneurs who are starting on their own, friendship is in its own place. Please don't bank your business model based on friends. Will not happen. It will not happen.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be aware of all these things before you. Sometimes even family can't support you. I mean, everybody is busy in there. I think those kind of things you really need to keep in perspective. Yeah, thank you for that, Himmat. Vinita, so again, this area that you have chosen with the ministry to design marketing strategies and for the ministries. It is by the very word, you will be working with tourism boards and things like that. It is very daunting. I know how difficult it is to get to them. It requires a lot of patience, right? And what are the challenges when you started? It's 2 years since you started, you said, right?
Possibly 4 years.
4
since
years.
the time I wound up my previous business. But I think I totally agree with Himmat that we unnecessarily romanticize success itself. It's not just entrepreneurship. Because if you look, especially from an Asian perspective, we look at merely speaking about success. It's almost like failure is a taboo. We don't want to talk about it. And I think almost at least 90% of all enterprises are bound to fail. Why do we sugarcoat this? And this was one thought which I had even at the time when I was opening Bluebrick. I said, I will not take major risks, which I did in my previous business. I will ensure that I have a good idea which converts into a good business proposition. You have to think things through. So in terms of challenges, yes, working with government officials, you know how they are. They bring in their whims, and I hope they're not listening in on this, but you know how it is. It literally becomes an exercise in ego massaging most of the time. And because most of our work is based outside, governments don't understand that we have to work with international partners over a period of time to build their trust and to ensure that they deliver the goods. It can't be piecemeal. It can't be that we work with them for 2 months, but we have to pay them the retainer whether the government pays us or not. So that's one thing, having to work with government offices, the frequent changes that we are seeing in ministers and in even, all the power play which happens. So that is a big challenge. Although I think the advantage we have is that there are not too many players in this.
Not too many. Yes. Yeah. So that is the good point of these things. So which means, but there is also one, the one drawback with not having too many players in this. And this is a question for Captain Suresh. So when you don't have any competition, when you don't have, Captain Suresh, this is for you. So Vinita was saying that there are not too many players in the area that she's chosen to work and build her business in. So, but there is a bit of a drawback in that if you don't have anybody, any competition as such, and I'm sure your business is like that. You probably are the only one who runs these camping trucks, right? So not having anybody to not having like a blueprint or being a pioneer in something that you do. What do you have to double check your proposition or your business interest? I mean, who do you, where is is there a blueprint that you can check back? Is there somebody else who's done this elsewhere that you're checking in? You're completely, out in the open, doing your own thing, and by trial and error, I think you would be doing. Isn't that true for what you've done?
You have really said it, and it's not easy to stand out at any height. People will say, when you run a race as one single person, people will say, oh, he's the only one, so he's gold medalist.
Exactly.
So when you have no comparative study, no one to compare, the people won't know what is the quality. Now, I want to ask certain tariff, and we have been giving really, though I cannot make everybody happy in the market. I'll just take you back a little bit. With the Western clientele where I could deliver like an army officer typical. I have had clients, they have repeated 12 trips in 15 years, 15 days each. That's the kind of reputation I have earned. But in the Indian market, it's been very difficult. Every group, they teach me something new because I could not copy paste. If you want to run a restaurant today, or a hotel or a camp, you can always hire a consultant. They will run your business. Now they will help you in establishing. I had to do everything from scratch, the designing, fabrication. It took me 1.5 years to get permissions. Only permissions in spite of the fact that my own course mates and I knew the additional commissioner of transport. I had the access to the governor in Chandigarh. I couldn't get permission for 1.5 years. Nobody was clear under what clause they will give me permission.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and now every season we redraw our strategies. So what I say to my people, my friends, I'm not going to be probably a successful businessman, but yes, I will leave a legacy. I will leave a project which people can study. And maybe if my children want to take it forward, they will have a platform from where they can launch. I had no platform. So yes, as I can see the story of Himmat, and I must say his name is Himmat, and he had a Himmat to say in public. Absolutely. And I have gone through the same. I said, I was earning big money. Sometimes I had so much of big money, I used to save that money and work on nature conservation programs for 2 years, no business. But now I'm hand to mouth from season to season. And after Corona, we have been beaten up so flat. Thanks to my wife and my children, those have stood by me and my friends. And a lot of friends on Facebook have come forward to support us. Anyway, so we had our own challenges. And as you have said, I'm living the dream of millions of people. Everyone comes to me, sir, I want to make a truck like this. And I just smile inside how difficult it is. I don't discourage them. I tell them, if you want to ride a horse for 1 hour, you should be able to go under the horse for 6 hours. Means I have to look after this truck so much. On the move, I go under the truck to grease it because my truck was not greased properly. And people do not understand the expenses involved.
Absolutely.
One company was talking to me for a month almost. Every third day, they will take my half an hour, 1 hour. But when I gave them the tariff, they had a big dream. They wanted to have they called it signature programs. I said, okay, these are my standard expenses for 3 months in Rajasthan. They couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, look, I have to take my truck. Your hotel is there static in Jaisalmer.
Absolutely.
But me going there and coming back in 5 days, it will cost me 1.5 lakh rupees going and coming back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
great. I mean,
that's
yes.
So
yeah.
It's been very difficult, not easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. I mean, that is there. Also, you need to find your market. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? You build something, you have something, and then you start looking for the market, the right market to sell it. And it takes time to find, to find the right to find the right audience for your product. It's not always, because you're in the niche segment, you really have to you work towards finding your tribe who will think like you think and do do a trip the way you want them to do. Professor Chowdhury, you heard so many entrepreneurs speak. How would you sum it up? I mean, for students who would like to be entrepreneurs, how would you sum it up?
Yes, I understand there are lots of challenges, but it's not all that bad. I know there have been, given the pandemic, there have been loss of jobs, there have been loss of business, but then we also need to realize that there has been a pandemic-driven creative destruction. And one of the indicators is, if I look at US, and it's terribly affected by this pandemic, the number of EIN applications, which means intention to start a new company, has actually gone up by around 10 to 15%. So there are more people, but yes, we can always argue that the pandemic has forced people to, take up entrepreneurship or start their own enterprises, but then that's not that bad. I'll just very quickly try to bring, to the table a few things. One, let us understand the way I look as an academic, I look at entrepreneurship, especially in case of tourism, is that unfortunately, most of the enterprises are drone or Fabian enterprise. They are run-of-the-mill enterprise. And one of the words which we have been very casually using, but which is very, very important, is that entrepreneurship is intimately related to creativity and innovation. Unfortunately, our enterprises are not very creative. This is one thing that we need to understand. On one hand, the challenge is, and we need to understand this in tourism, and some of you discussed this, is that the barriers to entry are really low.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know investing in a truck, but then that's not that difficult. Or someone trying to copy what Neha does might not be very difficult, right? So we aren't a very creative thing. The second challenge is that our education system kills this innovation and creativity thing. Just have a quick look at the enterprises that we look up in tourism sector with some amusement, with some fantasy, as the word that was used.
Romance.
Yeah. So most of them are led by people who don't have a tourism background.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tourism academic background, I mean to say. So people who have been into tourism, who have formally learned tourism supposedly, are not as that good entrepreneurs as others who come up without education in tourism and who are more willing to experiment with ideas. So, two things that I would like to, the way I look at it, and as a teacher, my job is to put it in, models and frameworks. There are two things which are very important. One is the operations part. And operations part, no matter how good you are, sooner or later, someone is going to copy. The moment you start sending on messages that your business is, doing pretty well, people would start looking at it and try to understand it and imitate it. So that is a poor defense. That's not going to extend you a sustainable competitive advantage. What on the other hand is very important, and many of you actually mentioned that, is the creativity part of it. And I would just add some terminology to it, that companies need to have a creative narrative to what they do. At the very beginning, Loveleen used a phrase. She said, we continuously reinvent ourselves. And this reinvention is very important. Most youngsters, I have so many students who started their small companies in tourism sector. They have access to a small market. They know a part of the business. And in the short run, it appears to be a fantastic idea. They get into this, they make quick money. But what is very challenging is to sustain that business in the longer run. So while, one of the panelists today said that it's not that it should not be that fantasized, or as Jalen said, that maybe starting is more difficult. What I feel is that maybe starting is relatively easier, but to sustain at times could be very difficult, because you continuously need to reinvent yourself. You continue to bring in an unabated supply of creative ideas, creative narratives. So as long as you have this supply of creative narratives, you'll be doing pretty well. If you don't have a creative solution or a creative narrative, that is where you're going to end up having difficulties. So, and yes, one thing which everyone said, I would agree, that traditional education can only help you with certain things like understanding risk management. So if as an academic, I have cases from Neha's business and Himmat's business and Captain Suresh's business, the kind of challenges that they face, have an opportunity of my students interacting with them, the way we have created this platform. Yes, they will learn and they will understand and appreciate that, yes, there are going to be challenges, but yes, they have to be creative. And if time permits, Shobha, I have a very small story to tell you, 2 minutes. Do I have?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
And this was also very interesting. I was teaching in Mexico long back, and I completed my course, and I was teaching a course on entrepreneurship. And this class of students came and, as a send-off, they gave me a small gift. And the girl who came up to hand over this gift to me, told me, whispered, that actually she has manufactured that soft wood toy. I said, and these were just undergraduate students, right? So she said that I said, you are an undergraduate student, why do you do all this? She said, I have a hobby, and I come from a village in Mexico, and I live with my uncle in Mexico City. He has a factory, and I do this stuff. I said, good. And I don't know what happened that day. Probably I had some lessons to come for me. So I said, okay. And she said, once I'm done with my graduation, I'm going to start this business. I said, what happens if this business fails? So she smiled at me and she said, why should my business fail? And she said, if this business fails, I'll do some other business. And I don't know what happened that day. I was almost after her life. I said, what happens if this second business also fails? She said, why should this business fail? Third business. And I said, what happens if this third business fails? She says, fourth business. I said, what happens if this fourth business fails? And then she's laughing. She says, how can this happen to me in one life that 4 of my businesses fail? I said, but suppose your business also fails. She said, if my 4th business also fails, then I'll go and work for someone. Now, look, this is a big lesson for us. This is a huge cultural difference that we have, and we need to, need to work here. A girl who is an undergraduate student goes for a business, a failed business, for second business, third business, fourth business. If nothing works for her, then she goes for an employment. In our case, the best from JNU and IITs and IIM, they go for a job. Civil services, IAS, IPS, state government, public sector. If public sector doesn't work, private sector, big companies. If that doesn't work, small, medium-sized, small companies. If nothing works in their life, ये निराश, हताश लोग would go for entrepreneurship. Now this is a challenge. There are so many dimensions to this. Why we have created this kind of a cultural, socio-cultural ecosystem. I mean, it's a big debate, but this is the challenge, that we need to have the best, willing, creative people to go for
entrepreneurship, yeah.
And which is actually changing in India last 20 years. We have better people, more youngsters experimenting and taking up the challenge. Neha is sitting here as an example before us. So we need to create many more such examples, but we need to bring about this change in the psyche of the youngsters, and because we are a collectivistic society, so parents and teachers will also have a different outlook. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. That was really well put, and I think it's a great lesson and learning for students, and as well as for all of us who are doing. I think I will go up to 4 businesses. I think I pretty much like that idea. On that note, we all need to say something for the students who are listening in. What is that one thing you would advise students as they wish to enter the tourism and hospitality industry? Neha, this is for you. Neha,
Your
yeah,
voice broke
you're
off, so I
muted.
didn't hear.
Oh, sorry. No, I said a message for the students listening in for who are interested in entrepreneurship. So
I think the biggest lesson is like what Himmat also touched upon a bit. It's not gonna be easy. Like uh, it will take you to the worst possible thing that can happen to you, and even though you might have prepared yourself for everything, it would take you much more beyond that, and you gotta survive that. Then only I think that would uh, it's all about survival, because entrepreneurship is like a sine curve. It goes up, it has its happy moments, and it has
moments,
its
yeah.
worst of moments. So all of these like successes are okay. It gives you a bit of motivation to go ahead, but you got to be prepared for the worst and survive that. And it's not fancy. You got to get your hands dirty to make it happen. Like, you got to do everything by yourself, and be there everywhere, do whatever that it takes to make it happen. Because even though we have a very good funding system in India, and many people just chart out thinking, oh yeah, let's do this, and then we'll raise funds, and then we'll do then we'll scale it up, and then it's like fancy. But no one thinks about profitability, no one thinks about sustainability, and no one thinks about the customer service, and which is the most important. So think from what problem you're solving. Every business has to start from a problem for which you are creating a solution. So once you create the solution, make sure you create the best of solution, keep on improving it, reinventing it, like Loveleen said, and be prepared for the worst. I mean, that is something that I need to really focus on, having been bankrupt a couple of times while running.
That's very well put. Thank you. Thank you, Neha. Himmat, over to you.
Right. So for all the students coming out, give yourself 3, 4, 5 years to get to know yourself when you come into the real world. From home, you came to college, you already saw a change of lifestyle, of environment. From college, you will come to the real world. Again, very different to what you've been used to in college. Give yourself 3, 4, 5 years to experiment, to find your own self, and you will find your own self eventually. And after that, only listen to your gut feel and only listen to your heart. Do not listen to people around you if you're looking at entrepreneurship. Also, please remember, no parent, no wife, nobody is as important as money is when you're an entrepreneur. You should be only money focused, because at the end of the day, and I'm not saying make big money, the security which money will give you for your business, nothing else will, because you're on your own. Remember that. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you, Himmat. Jailam.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There is work going on.
Yeah.
Sorry. I look at entrepreneurship as religion. There is another story of Jailam. When I was in America for 10 years, I started my own business there. But and that's why with that experience, I would say there should be fire in your belly. And if you chose to be an entrepreneur, let that fire be alive. Just don't jump on without researching. Do your research. Think what you like. Find your own niche, because there are so many opportunities around us. So find your own niche. And in initial days maybe difficult, where everybody shared, you might go through tough patch, but prepare for it. And you may cry, but at the end you will be smiling if you are persistent. And I think that is so very important, being persistent in business, and especially tourism business, passion. Being passionate about what you do is very important. Success comes through passion and persistence. That's what my advice to you. Don't give up. Failure is not an option. And you will survive, because there is huge pie and everybody has their own share of business in tourism, I would say.
Absolutely. Well said. Vinita.
So Shobha, I think what I would like to tell the students is, number one, a point which we discussed earlier. Don't come into the field of tourism thinking that in your first year you're going to be visiting Iceland or Poland. That's not going to happen. It's hard work. Perhaps 10 years down the line, you will go to a WTM, but you have to walk 20,000 steps in a day when you do that. So be realistic in what you expect. Number two, when you finally decide to become an entrepreneur, make sure you find the right partner, because this is where most people fail badly. Because if you're stuck with the wrong partner, then everything can just go down very, very easily. Then, of course, there's always, you have to find a skilled team, and there's an element of luck, which will also, hopefully play along with your grand plan. So I think it's a matter of thinking things through. And of course, given that everything works in your favor, it has to be that one starts small and organically. Don't look at big funding and then, go kaput. It doesn't make sense. So start small and grow at your own pace. That would be my, suggestion and recommendation to students. Thank you.
Absolutely. Captain.
My message to the students is chase quality, not fame and money. You are not going to become big businessman, rich overnight. And I will say, if you want to get into tourism, first work with somebody, learn the nuances of it, learn the pitfalls and hurdles by burning somebody else's money, not your own fingers. And it is great to have great ideas, but to make them work, not easy. And don't live with that money which is not in your pocket, means money of future. ये तो आ जाएगा, ये तो मैं ले आऊंगा, funding हो जाएगी. Vinita has said very rightly that last thing which I noticed is that do not burn your money. You have to be careful. The moment you go penniless, not many can survive because you need a support system. I survived maybe because of my wife and children. They had no demand from me. And there were occasions I could not take them out for 100 rupees meal for the entire family. I have gone through that. So my message to the students is, don't glorify entrepreneurship. You have to, either it is in your blood or you have to be successful. But at the same time, there will be occasions when you will be forced to compromise with the quality. Don't compromise with the quality. In our case, we started like 7-star, but then we started giving, because people were demanding at a lesser tariff, we had cut on the frills, but not the quality. So they have to be careful, learn carefully, and it is 10 years before they become successful. Or very few are very rarely lucky who will just jump into tourism and they'll be lucky to be successful in 2 years, 3 years. And also Dr. Chaudhary said, a lot of children, these young students, they get onto Instagram, they go to Spiti or Leh, they come back with some nice photos. Their friends, they start saying, hey, can you take me next year to Spiti? And they say yes, because he has done a trip in 10,000 rupees. He hacks it up to 15,000 rupees and he makes a bit of money for buying a camera or a lens. And he thinks he's become a tour operator. Second year, yes, he will get some. Third year, he will be in the open. There'll be sharks with whom he will have to compete. So they have to be a little careful, yes. Learn with baby steps.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Suresh. Lovely. Over to you.
Yeah, so I think so many wonderful teachings have already come from everybody. So when I go and talk to tourism students, which I do with a passion and every opportunity that I can get, my main message to these people is that there is no better time than this for you to be passing out and coming into this world. the number of opportunities, the number of ways, the number of means that is available to you is unprecedented. And we can whine about we didn't have this or that, but forget that. You have what you have. Don't blow this chance. Look beyond the usual. Look beyond what we were taught as what your college is preparing you for, or look beyond what your parents feel, or you've gone and done an internship in a travel company where you were made to just do menial work, or wherever. Look beyond all of that. There is nothing to stop you. You can bootstrap. You have a good idea. Your heart is in the right place. You're passionate. As long as the idea is good, and as long as, taking quality from Captain Suresh, from Jalem, she said, you have to have your passion. Neha said you have to research. Everybody's added such beautiful words to everything. The point is, don't look for quick money. You're not going to become a businessman overnight. Have your passion, start small, stay focused, pay attention on quality. Don't underestimate the traveler. At end of the day, if you're in the tourism business, you are going to be servicing the travelers. Don't underestimate them. Don't think that just because, like Captain Suresh said, you went for a trek one time, then you suddenly are becoming, because they know more than you. So having said all of this, you are in a very good space, and look for mentors in the industry. That is one thing that I would really tell the young kids who are starting out as entrepreneurships. Contrary to what you think, contrary to what you feel that nobody is there to help you, if you reach out and you are, all they need to see is a little fire in you and a little stability and in your focus. There are tons of people who will mentor you in the industry, and there are so many of them who are happy that talent is coming into the industry. People are doing new things. I mean, when I met Neha for the first time, there was this joy in me that I felt that, here is another young person who's coming and adding value to the industry. So people are here to open doors for you if they find that you are doing some good work, or you intend doing some good work. So don't ever get disheartened at this time when people tell you there's no, travel industry is done the dumps or whatever. We are all here, all the panelists. I'm sure if you reach out to any one of them, they will be happy to mentor you. Reach out, do your thing, and all the best. And one last thing, even if you don't get money, there are a lot of fringe benefits. Even like Vinita said, you might not go to Poland or Iceland or Greenland the first year, but you will get there. And you meet the most wonderful people when you're in this industry. Take that from me. And those are the fringe benefits.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Loveleen, and thank you everybody on the panel. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. That was fantastic insights. And to wrap it up, you had such wonderful insights, wonderful advice from, I said, about over 250 years of experience talking to you. I can, compile it as one, one big volume from the pages of the tourism industry. In an earlier panel, there was one gentleman, Mr. Carr from Heritage Tours Orissa, who said, if you want to enter the industry, take a 1-year break and travel the length and breadth of the country. I think that's a very, very sane advice. If the Indian tourism is full of entrepreneurs, and I'd like to call them accidental entrepreneurs. They really did not venture out to study for tourism or anything. You all have that advantage. You have, and today because of social media, you get to see a lot, hear a lot. So you probably will come in as a very well-informed, somebody who studied for tourism, and like Loveleen said, there are people out there to mentor you. All the best, and please, the industry is waiting for new blood. It's waiting for innovations. It is waiting for creativity, and it is waiting for young people who can, who can draw that wonderful line, find that sweet spot between personal interaction and technology. Right? Currently, we are technology or personal interaction. We don't believe that there is a marriage of the two. So I believe the younger generation can come up with great innovations. Thank you, everyone.
Highly thankful to all our eminent panelists for their insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the viewers of this session. I'm sure that the takeaways of the session will enthuse confidence among students and young professionals during the current testing times towards the new normal. We have a surprise for you all attendees. Scan the QR code on your screens with your mobile phones and answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. You will get to win prizes and surprise gifts. And I shall see you in the next session.